Welcome and thanks for joining. I'm Mike Sheffield. Today we're going to take a look at the Oracle Enterprise Manager plugin for PostgreSQL brought to you by the folks at Integration Plumbers. This is going to be a bit of an overview today. We're just going to take a harbor tour and look at some of the dashboards, alerts, metrics, and management features of this particular plugin. More specifically, we're going to be talking about the overview screens for this plugin, the configuration on the Postgres side. We're going to talk about real-time statistics, database and query metrics, and lastly, alerting and the capabilities that come along with those alerts. Let's go ahead and jump into our demo environment and get started on our first topic. All right, so we are here at our all target screen, and we can search for our Postgres databases or clusters. Once we have those configured, if we have anything with departments or line of businesses, of course, we could find those there. In this case, I'm just going to open up target type here, and then we're going to look under databases. And we can see here our Postgres cluster and also our databases are listed. Let's take a look at our cluster first. There are a few things with our cluster target that would not be available directly from our database since we are looking at that cluster level. So right now we only have one cluster up and running, but let's go ahead and click that and dive into it. This is going to be our cluster overview screen. So on the left-hand side here, we're going to see our availability history for the last 24 hours, so whether we've been up or down, as well as then next to that, each of the targets within the cluster. So it looks like we have 3 nodes here. We have DB1, DB2, and DB3. It also lets us know the availability of each of these targets for the last 24 hours, how long we've been up, in our node state. So whether this is a primary or secondary node. In this case, we can see DB2 here is our primary node. We can also see that down at the bottom when we're looking at replication, what our primary node is. And it looks like there's a few alerts here as well that are in the critical we probably want to take a look at to find out why our primary node has so many alerts on it. We can look at all of our connections as well as host information. Again, if any of the cluster target or cluster information had any sort of alerts or problems with that particular cluster, those would show up here in the middle. And then in the bottom, we get all of our cluster replication stats. So whether we have any write lag, replay lag, data lag, what the state is, what the sync state is, as well as user information and addresses. If we wanted to switch over our primary node at this point, we could always initiate a switchover with a button here on the upper right-hand corner. Notice it is, in this case, a switchover, not a failover. Nothing is failing. This is a user-initiated switch of the primary node. So if I click that button, it will pop up here and let us know that we can choose any of the standby databases to be promoted to the primary. If I use my drop-down, since DB2 is our primary, I can either click DB1 or DB3 to initiate that switchover. From our cluster overview screen, we can also then go ahead and utilize anything we wanted to from our menu, meaning if we wanted to change any of our look at any of our metrics, if we want to change any of our metric collection settings, we can use anything for comparison or drift management to see if anything is drifting as far as configuration-wise is concerned, or we can look at our topologies as well and see what is being used by or uses this particular cluster. Jumping back to our all target screen here, let's go ahead and jump into our databases instead of the clusters. So we can see under this database menu, we have cluster and database. Let's go ahead and click on that. And we see we have 4 nodes at the moment. Now we already looked at DB1, DB2, and DB3. We know those are part of a cluster as we looked at that particular target type. But we're going to go ahead and jump into, at this point, our PG demo. Has a little bit better data to show in this case. So we're at the overview screen here for our individual database instead of the cluster level. And we see we have some additions here. At the top, instead of being our availability history, we now have our target status, our monitoring status, and server configuration. The target status is letting us know everything is kind of some stats around the database. We can see we have some unused indexes there. We have some disabled triggers, backends, and so on. In the middle, we have our monitoring status box, and that's letting us know what is configured with this particular database, and if we're able to collect any sort of metrics from that database. So we need to have PG underscore stats and PG underscore stat statements to collect a lot of the metrics we're looking for. We can see it is configured for replication, and it will give us then our license status, how many licenses are we using and how many we're licensed for. On the right side is our path to our configuration file and where our data folder is. We'll come back to that here in just a moment. Right now, this is just where the path or where that count file lives. Next, further down, we then do see our availability history and any sort of incidents and problems. So it looks like there are a few alerts here with some severity, give us our severity levels, and we can look at those again. We'll look at those a little further as well. Further down, we could also see our backends, or the backends that are connected. Of course, we can see the number of those backends from the top, but now we can see, it looks like mostly all the same user here that's logged in, just our Postgres user that's logged in. We can look at those backends connected. Now, we saw from the top that this is configured for replication, but since it is there's no other nodes, it's only one node, we don't have any sort of replication statistics on this particular database at the moment, so we'll see that that's blank. We can also look at our background writer. Looks like there haven't been any checkpoints performed as of recently. We could also look at our buffers or time spent in doing various activities as well, just from our overview screen. We also see our connections over time and how those have been rising and lowering over time. We can look at the last day, last week, last month, or make a custom. And same thing with the buffers or the checkpoints were performed. We can look at the last day, the last week, month, or change that to a custom date and time if we wanted as well. The last thing on the bottom here is going to be the last two boxes are all about our agents. In this case, we're using an EC2 instance as our agent. Now, this plugin can connect directly from an agent on a host, or it can also perform collection remotely. In this case, we're using an EC2 instance on Amazon to remotely collect our stats in this case. So it is giving us our performance metrics for that particular host, where the agent is located. In this case, again, an EC2 instance. So it'll give us our CPU and our memory and kind of what's happening there. And then on the right-hand side is all about then our disk usage for our host or the host where the agent is running at the moment. Will let us know what disk space we're using as well as what is available. So if we wanted to go and check into our configuration, and that's the next thing down on our navigation pane, here is the path to our conf file, but we can also then click on configuration over here on the left, and we'll get the actual information from that conf file. What all the values are set to. We could see anything that it's set to already. We can see our boot value, our reset value, so what it would be just in case of any sort of reboot or anything that way, as well as is this the integers, is it a Boolean, what our data type is there, and a little bit of information around that particular parameter for that within that configuration file. So at this point, we can view everything that is in that configuration file. There are several hundred values we could look at, as well as other paths to other things that are within that configuration file. Now, our next section down is going to be the real-time section, and this is where we're going to find all of our statistics that are being collected sort of in real time. And the first thing going to be our locks here. So we can see all of our locks that are currently ongoing. We can include anything with locks granted if we want by clicking this little checkbox. And we can set our refresh as well, whether we want to refresh every 15 seconds, 30 seconds, or a minute, or no refresh if we just want to take a look at some of these locks that are already here. So anything that is potentially a blocking session will have show us the PID, will show us the blocked query, the state, the username who's attempting to access, as well as the blocking query. So what we're going to be able to see what is being blocked, as well as what is doing the blocking. It will also then give us the username of the blocker and the blockee. We can also see if the lock has been granted, whether that's true or false on the far right side as well. We can also check into any sort of vacuums that are ongoing. It looks like there are a few at the moment that are currently ongoing. So we get the same sort of information. We get the database name, our heap blocks total, blocks that have been scanned, blocks that have been vacuumed and what percentage were going on there. We can also see our idle connections. If there are any idle connections, we can again refresh that. We can not refresh that if we want to look into what's going on. So we see a PID. We see that there is at this point one connection that is idle, although it has not been much, not been very long in our idle time. I'm sure if we refresh that, that time would continue to go up. We can also see our logs, any logs that are coming out of this particular database. And again, same thing, we can refresh that, or we can look at just the current logs that came out in the last few moments, or refresh that if we want to get more of like a live tail kind of thing. So we can look and see if we have any sort of errors. We can look at our logging level and see our user database. So we know the database already and what that message is from the log itself. Now the last portion here is underneath our real-time section is going to be for individual databases within our database instance. In this case, we have 3 databases running: our Postgres, default Postgres database, a sales database, and a test database. So if I click on this section, we'll see that then there are multiple subsections below that, and we can start to look through those or explore those a little bit from that database itself, the tables within it, any indexes, the queries that have been run, and then if we wanted to analyze any of those queries further. So going into our database section, we're going to see our database size, the size of overall of this database, as well as the percentage of that which are indexes. And we can see in our table the actual size as well. If we wanted to change this, if we want to look at transactions, if we want to look at blocks read or hit, we can always change that within our graph as well just by using the dropdown. And same as before, we can change from the last day, the last week, last month, or a custom time as well. And then the lower box will tell us again the backends, much like on the overview screen, what's happening only at this particular database level. If we go to our tables, we can look at similar pie chart here as well, only instead of size, this is just the table size within the database, and we can change our table, whichever table we're looking at, using either the pie chart and click on which table we'd like to look at, or we can just change that down below on this particular chart here, and we'll switch to our the chart that we want to see with the table we want to see. Same thing, we can change our time as well as changing what metric it is we're looking at. So if we want to look at scan counts, we can look at rows fetched by scan type, whether that be sequential or index scans. We can look at our rows that have been inserted, fetched, updated, or deleted. In this case, looks like there's just a lot of updating that's been going on, not a whole lot of deletion, not a whole lot of insertion going on here as well, just a lot of updating in this particular table. If we go down to indexes, we see that, again, similar. We get a pie chart, and we can change our indexes based on which one we'd like to look at. We can change that by using the chart below and clicking on each individual index, or we can use our pie chart to change that as well. So we have our index statistics, our index scans per hour. We can also change to entries read, table rows fetched, or disk blocks that have been either hit or read for this particular index as well. If we go to queries, we're going to see the queries that have been run recently. This doesn't necessarily mean that they are currently running. That would be under the real-time section for if we want to look at those real-time queries. But this will be queries that have been run recently. If we go to our query analyzer, we want to look at particular queries within that. We can always move around here and click using the chart to see our historical analysis of that particular query. So we'll get our average execution time, our row count, call count, and then the full query. If we want to look at the explain plan, we can look at that explain plan. You can just click on any particular query at the top, and it will change that explain plan for you at the bottom. Let's go ahead and pick one of those we had before. Or you can just in this query plan, this query text down here below, you can just type that out directly, any query you wanted to use as well. So we can hit the button then to generate that query plan. The query plan is already generated for this particular query, so we're looking at that one at the moment. Not a whole lot going on with this particular query, but it will give us the planning time as well as execution time. And we can look through the various levels of that query. This is a pretty simple query. It only has 2 levels. And will give us all of our times, our startup costs, our total costs, how many rows we're hitting, what's our plan with various statistics around the particular query. Lastly, we could go ahead and look at our license information that is letting us know we're using 4 of our total 204 licenses at the moment. If we need to extend trial, if we have a trial license and we want to extend it, or if we wanted to purchase additional licenses, here is the email address we can use there, and will let us know just here what type of license we're using. Is it active? When is it expiring? We can see we have 9,000 days, so I think we got a little bit of time there. So a couple more things to mention here. Let's go ahead and just bring up our menu for this particular database instance. We can use any data that we're already pulling here. We can use that for within Enterprise Manager. If we wanted to look at our support from Diagnostics, we can look at blackout periods if we want to create or end any sort of blackout periods. We look at job activity, the members, as far as topology. We already kind of did that earlier. We can look at configuration information. We can look at compliance if that is loaded up. We can go to our monitoring configuration if we want to add more targets or delete targets or add or change anything with groups. We can do that as well. Now, so far we've only looked at out-of-the-box dashboards. There are, of course, many more metrics that are associated with this plugin than what we've looked at within our out-of-the-box dashboard. So if you want to look at any individual metric, you can always come to the all metrics and use any of these metrics to create your own dashboards as well. If you're on a version of Enterprise Manager that allows you to create dashboards. And so all of these metrics can then be used to make any sort of dashboard you'd like to make. You can also go to the metric and collection settings if you want kind of a quick view of what all the metrics are that we're collecting. This is where I kind of used for that quick view, but this also allows us to set our thresholds for alerting. And so we can set our warning levels, we can set our critical levels, if there's any sort of corrective actions. We can change our collection schedules here as well. So we can see things for our background writer. All of our metrics for our background writers are being collected every 30 minutes. Some are every 10 minutes, some are every 5 minutes. You can set those collection cycles here, as well as then the threshold for alerts as well. So this screen shows a few different things. Like I mentioned, it shows all of the different metrics. There are close to 300 metrics, I believe, that we're collecting at any one time, and allows you to set that threshold for what gets alerted on as well. So we can either set just hard thresholds, we can set adaptive thresholds, or we can set time-based, those static thresholds based on time as well. Now, once our thresholds have been set, we could also then export this profile to use on other instances if we want to do that for all of our thresholds. Or we can, once they're set, we can also then go ahead and look at any alerts we have at the moment. We can go to monitoring and go to incident manager and bring up any sort of alerts that we have. We could also go directly to our overview screen to look at our incidents and problems. If I click on any one of these, we'll see what is happening with that particular incident, with that alert. We can add comments. We can manage this alert from here. We can reevaluate. We can add any sort of corrective actions if we need to. And we can look at what this metric or this what particular metric this alert has been fired on, and we can look and see what that's looked like over time. Now, in this case, we can see that we've looked or updated quite a few number of rows here, and it's giving us an alert because we've got a threshold set. Our warning level is at 10. Well, we're quite a bit above that, and our critical is at 15. So it looks like this was probably created an error. So we can always go back to our metric and collection cycles, reevaluate that particular threshold, since we looks like we've definitely not created that threshold at a high enough amount. We could change that. It would take probably only a minute or so to change that if we needed to. Well, that's all I wanted to show for today. We reached the end of our journey. That was just a quick overview into the PostgreSQL plugin from Integration Plumbers. For more information, you can always visit integrationplumbers.io/software to schedule a demo, request a trial, or you can always email us at sales@integrationplumbers.io. Thanks again for joining, and hope you have a great rest of your day.